Let me just note for the record that there is no quorum, so we can't adopt the agenda, but we are going to discuss a few matters that are on the agenda. Can we do a brief? So just as I'm going down through the agenda, there's nothing, there's no matter referred from the board of directors except the question of whether to resume in-person meetings, which was a item that came out of this committee. And I take it there's no new news on that. We're just sort of waiting to see what happens. You know, obviously the COVID numbers are up, so I don't, you know, I think there's no new information on that. Monthly financial report. Do we want to, Roz, were you available to give us just a brief update on activity through the end of the fiscal year?
Andy, I could take the place of Roz in doing that.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
Sure.
I'm gonna take the handle because I'm actually on vacation, so I left it for Crystal to do.
Okay, great. Well, Crystal, if you don't mind, just a brief update, and then I'll open it to questions for Dr. Morris and Mr. Green.
Okay, so on page 7 are the financial highlights for the month of June, which is also the end of the fiscal year 2021. We had net income of $2.18 million for June, and for the whole year it was $3.4 million. Our total revenues year to date was $32.18 million. Our total expenses for the year was $31.9 million, which we spent less than anticipated. For RETP Dev since July 1st of 2020, we have paid them $11.8 million. We'll see the professional contract services. There's a list of all the vendors that we paid for the month of June. And then as far as the penny revenue, we have received a total of $140 million of the $300 million that we should be receiving. Any questions?
Right. So questions for.
Yeah. So we've received basically half of the penny, right?
Yes.
Close to it.
140 million out of the 300 million.
Yes, so we should receive about 160.5 million more, so it's about half.
And do we have an estimate of the time frame when that money will run out then?
According to the financial penny model that we did, if all goes as planned, it should run out, I think around 2028 is when we're expected it to end.
Okay. So seven years from now.
Yes.
And Roz, we're updating that model every year, right?
Right. After the audit is completed, we go through and update that.
Yeah. So we should have an even more updated version of that timeline in the next couple months.
She usually will complete our audit around October. Well, October's coming in quick. Yeah, at least by December.
Yeah.
Because that's when we have to submit for the CAFR.
All right. Any additional?
I have one more question to follow up on what Mr. Green said. Now, we have also talked about what we're going to do after 2028. Have any more thoughts been given to that?
I'm sorry. No. I think the thought went to the board as to what they wanted to, the next steps were going to be.
Yeah, I think that, the board the entire board needs to continually take that question up. And, as it gets closer, we'll need to make some big decisions. you know, I think
Okay.
probably something that
Hopefully,
it's about time for the board to address that question again. It's been a little while.
that's right. And hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, I can certainly share that with Chairman Huggins.
Yeah, I would agree with all that.
Right. Any other questions for Crystal regarding activity through the end of June? Just real quick, will this, I mean, I would imagine you're still closing things and accruing things and whatnot. Will we get an updated version of this report next month, or?
Honestly, the updated would probably be when the audit is complete. So yeah, we are still posting stuff and still doing any accruals. And like you say, it's beginning of our fiscal year end. So yeah, there'll be a lot of, well, not say a lot of adjustments, but yeah, there's still some things that probably will need to be posted.
Okay.
But for the most part, I would say this is about 80%
Well,
accurate.
my recommendation, Roz, for maybe a next update on financial activity through fiscal 21 would be some discussion of the federal funding and how all that's working. I mean, because when I look at the statement, clearly we thought more of it would have been recognized as revenue by now.
Yeah, and again, it still goes back to when Michelle do her drawdowns.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, we have it, but she do quarterly drawdowns. And it might help if she would start to do them monthly, but as of now, she just do them quarterly. And then a lot of it has to do with accuracy. We can't draw down unless we have all ducks in a row.
Right.
Like the money we would get for RATP Day of a reimbursement. We have to you got to spend the money to get the money.
Yep. Well, I think some discussion about the federal funding would be really good. Maybe even broader than what I'm talking about. But what are the buckets right now? I mean, we obviously federal funding through the CARES Act and the I can't remember the acronym now for the
the ARP.
Yeah, ARP. Right. If we can have a sense for what those buckets are, how we anticipate using them, when we anticipate recognizing them, just kind of very broad strokes. I don't mean, which invoices.
Okay, we'll have that for your next meeting then.
Okay, that would be really helpful, I think. Nothing urgent there, but.
Okay. Crystal, can you write that down so I can remember to have it for next reporting?
I have it.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, so the next item, it looks like, is a DBE update from Dr. Prince.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
There's information about the MDBE tracking on page 22 of your packet. And I'm gonna kind of like just go over this document real quick, and then I have a few updates. Even after I talked to Dr. Mars, I was going back and looking at the policy this morning. But on the sheet that you received, where it lists vendors, the vendors are all contracts that we have with a DBE goal, and the vendors are DBEs as well as non-DBEs. And the way you determine which ones are not the DBEs, you look at the percentage, and I'll go through that in a few minutes. Under the column where it says comment paid vendor to date, I pulled this information directly from our check register every month. So that comes from the comment in terms of the amount that have been paid these vendors. And the next column says amount DBE paid to date, and that's based on what amount has been paid to the DBE firms. If 100% reflects, that means that all the monies went directly to a DBE, and we are paying those firms directly. In most of the contracts that are non-DBE vendors, there's at least a 2% goal. In some places, when the vendor submitted their proposal or their bid, they submitted a goal higher than the 2%. So that's why in some places you see 5%, 10%, 7%. And the percentage of goal achieved is based on, I just take the amount that says paid to date to the DBE, and I divide that by the amount that's been paid by the comment. For number item 15 for RATP Dale, I did not receive their reports until after I printed this report, so their percentage has changed, it's a little bit higher. Also, when I had a chance to go in and check the policy that we put in place for the Minority Business Enterprise Program, it states that the 25% should be based on, will be based on non-federal funds. So I would need to make a slight adjustment to this report, because when I pull the information from the Federal Register, it just gives me the total amount and doesn't specify if it's federal or state. So I'll need to go back in and get with Michelle and find out exactly which of these dollars are federal funds and pull those, so the 25%, when you look at this report, it only reflects non-federal funds. But I can also have another separate make some additional information that will let you also see the federal funds. And also in the policy, it states that on an annual basis, the board will review the goal that was established and make a determination if the goal should be increased or decreased. And I'll make the minor adjustments after Michelle returns, because I will need to get with her to determine exactly which of these funds are federal funds. And one other quick thing I want to share is that when I reported this report is based on July 1 of 2020 up to date. In the past, when I reported on information, I gave DBE reports, we only reflected the prime contractor and the DBEs that were under the prime contractor. So one thing that you don't see on this report is I have RATP Dale, and I just have a summary or a total. So if you would like for me in the future to go in and pull out and give you something separate to just see all of their DBEs and what amounts are going to their DBEs, I can do that as well. This ends my report unless there are questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Yes,
Dr. Morris.
I have a question. Dr. Prince, when I spoke with you during the week, you gave me some valuable information, but I thought about it and I spoke with other board members and found out that maybe we are doing this wrong. It's my understanding, and tell me, you can correct me, DBE firms are only those firms on here that we have 100%. The others are not DBE firms, and this is something that Mr. Andor created. And if that's the case, in terms of contributing to that 25%, I'd like to know what firms are we considering? We know that some of these firms here are not DBE firms.
That's right. Under the vendor column, I have vendor names. So what I have been sharing is that we are capturing all DBE payments. So that means that in some of the firms, vendors, they have DBE goals. So we capture their goals that they have within their contract. And that's why you see in some places like 2%. So we're capturing the DBE payments they make. But when it comes to the vendors, this is just a list of all the firms that have DBE goals in their contract. It could be 100% or it could be just a 2%.
I understand that, but on that 25%, that is determined by DBE firms. And it should be, in my opinion, only the ones that are contributing 100%.
Well,
I guess
in the way that we have always done, DBE payments in the future, even before I started with the comment, and how the feds always looked at it, they always counted any payments going to DBEs we would capture that as well. So that's why, in this case, that's why we place goals in contracts, because we count those goals that those vendors are achieving. We count their payments to DBE, since the money is still going to a DBE firm.
Okay.
And I was gonna say, in some places where we have the 100%, in a lot of cases, the goal was only 2%. But once we put the project out for bid, a DBE may have been the ones who end up getting the contract. So therefore, we show it as 100%, because since a DBE is the one that's getting the money, we count the full 100% versus just 2%.
Okay, now, that 25%, that is determined based on all the firms, or 21 of them, or 9 with the 100%?
It's based on, well, we look at all the firms that have a DBE goal, but we only count the DBE participation. So we count only the percentage that they give to the DBEs. So when we look at the 25%, it would be based on the total amount that went to the DBEs, and we divide that by the total amount that we paid that particular vendor.
Check on that, please, because I know some of these companies here, for example, well, I shouldn't give an example. Some of these companies are not DBEs.
That's correct.
And shouldn't be included in that 25%.
Well, but they have a DBE goal, so they have DBEs that they are paying monies to.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about strictly the 25%.
So Dr. Morris, you're saying that we should not count in our overall agency goal the amount that our contractors pay to DBEs as subcontractors?
Unless they are a DBE firm.
Right, and that's so you're saying, if I understand what you're saying, we would have to take out the 20% that RapDev is supposed to use DBEs. I mean, we have this blended goal of 25%, which is the overall amount we're supposed to be going, that's eventually supposed to get to DBEs, whether it's directly through a contractual relationship with us or indirectly through a subcontract relationship with a contractor. And what I'm afraid of is that if we stop considering the subcontracts, then we're not incentivizing our contractors to use DBEs. And that's defeating the point. We want them to use DBEs. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. I may be misunderstanding what you're saying, but I'm concerned that if we stop counting the subcontractors, like for example, the ones that RATP Dev, the subcontractors that they use that are DBEs, if we stop counting them because RATP Dev is not a DBE, then we're sort of defeating the whole purpose of the DBE program, because we want to incentivize the use of DBEs.
Well, let's take a look at McNair, for example. McNair is not a DBE firm.
Right.
And therefore, we are talking about firms that are, according to the federal government, DBEs. And those are the ones that are supposed to be contributing to that 25%. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
And that's the point.
I think
what we want is for Burr, Foreman, McNair to, when they contract with a subcontract attorney, we want them to consider a DBE for that position, and that's what they've done. And that's why part of what we pay them gets DBE credit, because they contract with a DBE qualified attorney. And that's what I'm saying. We need to include them, because if we don't, we start disincentivizing our contractors to use DBEs. I don't think.
I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chair, but I disagree. I think that the companies that contributing that are strictly DBE companies are the ones that we should consider in the 25%.
Well, so Dr. Prince, what would it look like? You mentioned that under RATP Dev, you could show the subcontractor that they're using.
Right.
What if we did that? What if we had a list of all DBEs, regardless of whether we pay them directly or whether they're paid as subcontractors through a contract, showed them on a separate report, listed out, and calculated the DBE percentage that way? Because I think maybe that.
Okay, I mean, I can show you I can show you the percentage and of the DBEs, but you, in terms of doing the calculation, you still have to show the amount that we paid to RATP Dev in order to come up with the percentage. But I can easily go in and.
My thinking is, if the concern, like, if I understand, Dr. Morris's concern, his concern right now is with the agency goal, not necessarily the RATP Dev goal. If we were to show exactly who the DBEs are that have been paid and how much they've been paid, divided by the amounts paid, total paid to all vendors, does that, regardless of whether they're a direct contract or a subcontractor?
Show me the percentage that the DBE companies or firms are contributing to that 25%. I'm only talking about the firms that are strictly DBEs.
So Dr. Morris, again, we come back to the same issue, which is that a lot of the subcontractors under the contractors are DBEs. And do you want to include those? We should, because that's a problem, because that's, again, we're back to this issue where the whole DBE program was designed to encourage us as an agency, but also our subcontractors, our contractors, to subcontract with DBEs. And the blended DBE goal always assumed that we would include the subcontractors in the calculation.
Okay, but what's wrong with presenting to us what the DBE firms is contributing toward this 25%?
And that's nothing. I think if Dr. Prince can produce a report like that, where regardless of whether the particular vendor is a direct contract or a subcontractor under another contract, we include them if they are a DBE, show how much we've paid them, either directly or indirectly through a contract, and then divide that by total vendor payments. Dr. Prince, would that work? Would that get the same percentage calculation?
I could go back in and I guess show you each DBE under each vendor and let you see their percent, let you see exactly what they're receiving and their percent. So the calculation on my summary sheet would still come back to the same.
Yeah.
But you would basically see who the vendors are, who the DBEs are under each vendor.
It would give each further detail. So like, for example, under McNair, let's use that as an example.
Okay.
If you were to show the attorney, I take it it's just one, but it may be more than one, the attorney that they've used that is a DBE, you were to show that under line 8.
Okay.
And demonstrate that 73,730 went to a DBE, then it's clear that we've identified who that DBE is, rather than just
right.
leave
I
it.
can help. And I think you mentioned earlier about having two separate reports. I'll keep the summary sheet, so you will see the summary.
Joined the meeting.
Then I'll have a separate sheet, and it would list out each individual DBE and the
Okay.
amount that they received.
I think that would help in terms of presenting the information that I need to reflect on.
Okay. And like I say, prior to July of 2020, when I reported on when I submitted my DB report, we only reflected on Transdale and their DBEs. So every time I gave you a report each month, you only saw the DBEs that were a part of Transdale's project. And what you don't see on this report, you don't see that the way I have it set up on this report.
Right.
But I can make
right.
that adjustment. I can make that adjustment.
Oh, and Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Green.
what is Ms. Dr. Prince, do you have the board policy on the DBEs that you can send to us
Yes.
in writing?
Yes, we came up with a policy, I think it looked like it was back in 2019. And I was supposed to start reporting or giving the board an update starting July 1st.
And that was approved by the full, right, but the policy that we have was approved by the full board though, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And I can send a copy of that as well, so you can have a copy of that.
Yeah, send us that so we understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
That would be a good
Thank
refresher
you.
for me. I just want to, yeah.
Are there any other questions or anything else you would like me to do?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I can send this to you prior to, for me to go back in and pull out the federal funds. I'll need to wait until Michelle returns to the office, so maybe next week I can send you something. I'll send you the policy and I'll revise this tracking sheet. And I'll try to get it to you next week.
That would be fine. I'm just hoping that, any questions, any concern, we can resolve it before the next board meeting. And the
Okay.
more information we have, the better off we are.
Okay, and as I stated earlier, there is language in the policy that states that the board will revisit the DBE goal, MBE goal on an annual basis and make a determination if there should be a decrease or increase. So it's in a year.
Dr. Prince, that's the overall agency goal that gets reviewed every year, right?
Right, yes, that's correct.
Not just the RATP or contract goals. Okay.
Right, it's the overall agency goal.
All right. Any other questions for Dr. Prince? All right. Any other items for the good of the committee, such as we are today? All right. Well, we've taken no action today. Again, let the record reflect that. It's all been informational. We didn't really even call the meeting to order, so there's no need to adjourn. But if there's nothing else, then I think we're done. Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye.